State Representative Angie Nixon. This week, one of Florida's most controversial legislative sessions started on March 2nd. During the 60-day session, legislators will be discussing a variety of the issues that impact our everyday life, but they aren't prioritizing the issues that we care about as a community. Governor DeSantis gave his annual State of the State address this Tuesday, where he talked about tax breaks for big businesses infringing on people's First Amendment rights and spoke very little about improving the quality of life for the working class. We as Floridians have a different vision, needs, and priorities. The people of Florida gave the people's response to DeSantis' address. One of them is Dr. Angela Luckett Edwards. She is my friend and an adjunct professor of world religions at St. Pete College. Her students refer to her as the sweetest professor of the college. Yet Angela and many other adjuncts like her are making poverty wages. She has done everything that the American dream has asked her to do. Go to college and get a degree, they said. She did that. On average, adjunct professors in Florida make a mere $18,000 a year. Many of them live in their cars. Others are doing many part-time jobs, including teaching as many as 20 courses in different colleges to survive. This is like doing 20 part-time jobs. Yet all of them are American heroes who are making sure our future generations have required skills and education to thrive. Governor DeSantis has yet to prove that public education is his priority. Florida ranks 50th in per capita spending. Let me repeat that. Florida ranks 50th in per capita spending on education, but ranks 15th in the nation in spending on corrections as per a 2010 U.S. Census and NEA rankings of the state. We'd much rather jail students and incarcerate folks than educate them. Another estimate states that we spend only 3.3% of our resources on education. Governor DeSantis and Tallahassee needs to align their priorities with the needs of the people, not the corporate interests of rich corporations. And this is Angie's Angle.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Angie's Angle. I am so excited to have the awesome, the intelligent, the hardest working woman, hardest working individual in the state capitol, Miss Ida Eskamani, who happens to be, can I call you an organizer? I can call you an organizer.
Heck yeah, representative. Call yourself that too. Absolutely.
An organizer and advocate. She's also a lobbyist for Florida Rising, which is a social justice organization, and she can tell you all about that. But let's just hear from Ida Eskamani, and she's going to tell us a little bit about herself, who she is, who she works for, and just what's going on this legislative session.
Thank you, Representative. First of all, I'm so honored to be a guest on Angie's Angle. I adore this name. And we're so grateful for your work. And for folks who don't know Rep Nixon comes from organizing. This is her first term, and we're just so grateful to have her fighting for working people here in the state capitol. And my name is Ida. I am the twin sister to Rep Anna Eskamani, so not to be confused. But I am an advocate in the building here. I represent Florida Rising. We're a racial and economic justice organization. And a lot of my work here is, basically fighting, it's a lot of corporations and white supremacists is sort of the vibe here. So, in that work, right, it's a lot of, advocating in support of really good bills. A lot of the good bills that we write come from our people. We really cherish, the process of collaborative governance or co-governance. So a lot of the sort of proactive bills we put forward, unemployment, housing protections, healthcare, all these different pieces, immigrant justice, literally these ideas come from community, from people directly impacted who come to lawmakers and say, I want a bill with this, right? And so a lot of the bills that I get to work on come from our members. It's not from me. It's not from, think tanks. It's from everyday people who know what they need best, know what the state needs best, know what liberation looks like. So I'm so honored to really be the eyes and ears of community here in the Capitol. So that's a big, just really critical piece of why I'm here, is channeling the community's energy and needs and bills and all those good things. And then on the flip side, right, in this Florida legislature, we just have so many fights. And so a lot of it is the corporate agenda, right? It's entities trying to preempt local governments, trying to pass tax breaks, trying to get more, profits at the expense of everyday people. And then also we've got, a lot of just blatantly racist proposals, right? House Bill 1, Senate Bill 484 is a big example of that. And so also just defending Black and brown lives, but also all working class people in this process.
Thank you for that girl. You listen, everyone, I call Ida when I need to know something or I don't understand a bill, or to connect me with people who can explain things, and just to make sure that I know what I'm talking about when I enter into debate or something.
Well, on the flip side, can I just say that people like me come to Rep Nixon when we need a fighter, when the working people are at risk, when Black and brown folk are at risk, and we need a champion, we go straight to Rep Nixon, and we know we have an accomplice in that. So we're so grateful for you. And as a freshman, you're killing it in this process. And I used to be a legislative aide for Rep Smith. So I know some of these inner workings, and I work in a lot of coalitions. So if I'm not on an issue, I'm probably 1 degree away. So I'm always happy to connect you, but it's all you, Queen. We're so grateful for you in this process. I just have to say that. And maybe Angie's angle is just us telling you how much we love you, but which I think you deserve, because you're also a mother. Like, we could hear your child. Like, you clearly are pulled in every direction.
You probably are hearing her in the background. She's up front with my mom right now. But speaking of HB1 and just bills that are coming down the pipeline, so I want to ask you 2 questions. What are the top 2 or 3 bills that we are on the defense for? And then what are the top 2 or 3 bills that we should really be supportive and taking the offense on?
100%. Absolutely in defense. House Bill 1, Senate Bill 484, right? This is legislation that would undermine our constitutional right to protest. It's direct assault on Black lives and the Black Lives Matter movement. And if it were to become law, not only would preempt local government budgets, would have enhanced penalties for nonviolent crimes. The definitions in this bill are very broad. And so literally, if you're at a peaceful protest with 9 or more people, and there's one instigator, one bad actor, which we know these folks, right? They're not with us, but they come into a protest to start trouble. If they do that, and there's some sort of violence breaks up, and again, the definitions of violence are very broad, and property damage very broad. So it's not even necessarily what you would assume, right? It could be something very innocuous, but all of a sudden, all y'all now have a second degree, or can be charged with a second degree felony for a riot. And then it also protects Confederate monuments. It shields counter protesters from civil liability if they injure or run a protester over. So it's not stand your ground, but it's certainly the spirit of stand your ground. And it's just all around a dangerous and bad bill. For folks who are, in jail for any of those offenses, you don't qualify for bail. And so in a moment when our criminal justice system is overwhelmed, the Secretary of the Department of Corrections said himself that the system is in crisis. And there's a lot of good bipartisan work to address the criminal justice system, to reform it, to, instill restorative justice instead of these punitive measures, which we know keep nobody safe. And this bill is just a complete, counteract to that. And also will increase all of our budget, the whole state budget, when it comes to incarceration. And we're in a place where this legislature is talking about a $2 billion budget deficit. They want to cut Bright Futures. And yet they want to keep incarcerating people and spend more taxpayer dollars on that, which is not keeping anybody safe. And again, for protesting, it's literally why you would be incarcerated. And so House Bill 1, Senate Bill 484 is just dangerous, terrible, bad policy, violates our fundamental rights. And we got to continue opposing it. And it did just pass its second House committee today. But we got still a lot of time ahead to let our state House and state senators know we oppose it and why. And this would also impact conservative protests. So think I'm a Planned Parenthood patient. I go into Planned Parenthood for my basic exams, and there's always folks out there yelling at me, condemning me to things, trying to make me change my mind. Those folks, I could charge mob intimidation under this bill. So the bill is so broad and does not just impact our people, it's everybody's right to protest. And so we got to make sure we educate folks on that. And then I also sort of alluded to some of the other fights, right? So they are looking to cut bright futures. They want to essentially give special treatment to different degrees. So basically, if your degree does not lead to a job, they want to cut your bright futures. And it's the most condescending and just scary kind of like political control, right? It's like, who is the legislature to decide what degree I should pursue? And so it's this sort of, it's really scary. It's really condescending. And quite frankly, it is a tax increase. When you cut bright futures, when you raise tuition, you are raising taxes on working families. And bright futures is critical for low income folk, for Black and brown folk, right?
I went to school on a bright future scholarship.
So did I. So many of us, right? And I didn't study engineering, science, nursing. I studied political science and sociology.
They would have cut our degree out?
Yes, they would have. We'd have to pay higher tuition. And all this is going to do is have an exodus of students. If they're looking at getting a degree and they see Florida isn't going to give them bright futures, you'll go to another state. So it's also going to lead to an exodus of young people. I mean, it's absurd, but that's currently what they're talking about. And to me, it's so frustrating because they're putting it under the narrative of this is, we're in a tight budget place. We have this $2 billion deficit we have to cut. But then they are going to continue arresting people and incarcerating people for a lot of taxpayer dollars. And then also there's like billions of federal dollars coming in. And they want to use that right now for road projects and water projects. But apparently
And also, did you hear what President Simpson wants to do with some of the COVID dollars?
Tell me, girl, tell me.
He wants to help fund the unemployment trust fund.
Ah, yes. You know why? Because
they want to keep giving those corporate tax giveaways, that corporate welfare.
You got it.
But they want to ensure that folks are paying sales tax from internet sales. Which
ain't that funny?
I mean, which is, whatever, but it affects the consumer, right? But they don't want to make sure that big corporations that are profiting billions of dollars are paying their fair share. That's crazy.
You're 100% right, Representative. And that brings me actually to it's like we're same train of thought here. You're 100% on it. The people's budget, which you are championing, which I'd love for you to talk on. But to your point, this online sales tax bill is not necessarily bad in the sense of Florida is one of only 2 states that don't collect sales tax from out-of-state online sellers, right? So, and that lack of collecting that sales tax does, you could argue, harm small businesses because right now they're at a disadvantage. But this is a consumer tax loophole. The legislature wants to close a consumer tax loophole and leave corporate tax loopholes wide open. And it's just not right. And again, whatever happened to the Republican Party is the anti-tax party. All I'm seeing right now are raising taxes on consumers, cutting essential programs, which essentially is a tax hike for working families, right? And then giving away hundreds of millions of dollars to the wealthiest corporations in the state who, as you know, there's no transparency. We don't even know who this money goes to or how much. And then also they are they're thriving right now, and they're also, of course, major political donors. And so it's really gross. And they're doing a lot of this under the cover of COVID, right? Because there's a lot of restriction of who can access this building. But that's why the people's budget is so important. If I could flip it over, I'd love to hear you talk about this effort that you are leading here in the legislature.
So would love to. Thanks for the toss. But the people's budget, in essence, it gives the opportunity for the people, residents, voters, people who just live in this great state of Florida to actually determine what they want to see funded in, the budget. And so unfortunately, we're facing a $2 billion shortfall. And so now there's all these cuts as it relates to public services, but they don't have to be cut. There's so much stuff so many ways that we can make sure that we budget accordingly However, again, to Ida's point, just this corporate welfare is happening. And so it's happening on the backs of working class people. And we have the opportunity to play a game, and you can present, like, pick the things that you want to see funded, and you can actually see and actually play kind of like a legislator. And, you know, I am from the people and I am now a legislator. So I do want to give a shout out to those folks who have an idea and an inkling to possibly want to run one day, but they're a little nervous. I want to say you need to do it, because we need more people. We need more fighters. We need people who are working class people, who care about working class people, to actually start legislating. And then I just found out that the senator who filed a bill to ensure that minimum wage, that that those who are under 21 or former felons, I like to call them returning citizens, that the minimum wage doesn't address them. It doesn't fall under them. I just found out he's a millionaire.
Yeah. Representative, there's a lot of wealth in this process. And a lot of folks who are legislating don't know our stories and our people, right? I'm the daughter of working class people. You come from community too, right? Like, to us, these sort of things, it's common sense that they're absurd, right? But so many folks in this process can't relate to these stories, right? And it is that bill, that minimum wage bill, the joint resolution, I think it's 854, and there is a House sponsor as well, is such a just disgusting piece of legislation. And there's just no other way to describe it. It would literally exempt hard to hire workers, which could include people with disabilities, folks under 21, and returning citizens from the minimum wage increase, which, 60% Floridians supported. And I have to note too that Governor DeSantis opposed the minimum wage amendment. And you have all these folks who are talking a lot of talk about blue collar workers, working class people. We're not here for the Zoom class. We're here for the working class. I don't see it. I'm sorry, because you oppose the minimum wage amendment. You're putting forth anti-worker policies. You're busting unions right now, the best defense for working class people. You're not doing anything on unemployment. They just put a proposal for unemployment. It's just a website fix, Representative. It's literally just a website fix. Nothing on increasing benefits, extending benefits, expanding access, none of that.
What's the number now? What's the weekly number?
It's $275 max, not counting taxes. And that also depends on what you pay into the system. So a lot of folks, it's less. And they want $244 million to fix the website. No benefits, like nothing touching benefits, just so you can access your measly benefits. And the thing in Florida is that so few workers even qualify under the current criteria, right? And so they want $244 million of taxpayer dollars to just fix the website so that those small percentage of folks can qualify for the $275 a week for 12 weeks. And that's not counting the hundreds of millions of dollars already spent on this website throughout the pandemic, and to actually break the website in 2011. So this is Republican governing at its best. Like, what? How is this fiscally conservative?
But I guess that's what happens when you allow a governor who committed Medicare fraud to determine the website and whatever. But anyways,
Scott, you're 100% right. Yes,
we've been 100%. Talking about bad bills. What are some good bills that are coming down the pipeline that we should get behind and support?
Yes, there are some really great, quite a few actually great unemployment proposals by Democrats, really trying to push for those reforms we just talked about. House Bill 207 is one good example, but there's several, and that's Representative Eskamani, Representative Diamond, and Senator Powell, who have championed that really comprehensive reform bill. But a lot of Democrats put out really, really good bills around unemployment. We've also seen a lot of good bipartisan housing bills. I'm hopeful housing will be an area of bipartisan work. I'm hoping, but we got to push it because these bills have not gotten hearings yet. So there's some good bipartisan bills that have been filed, but we have to make calls to get those bills moving, right? So that's really important. And there are, like I said, some good criminal justice stuff, not so much moving in the House yet, a lot of good stuff in the Senate. And so we got to keep pushing for those policies as well. And Representative, you've got a lot of amazing bills. You've got bills around incarcerated pregnant women. Rep Nixon, y'all, has a bill that would create a Department of Labor to protect us and our wages, which we're so excited about. And so you've got stuff on cannabis too. That's another big issue we got to center, because they're trying to put THC caps again on our medical cannabis and constantly undermining the will of the voters. So that's another issue. So there's a lot of really good bills, and I think as we talk about these bad bills, we always have to also pivot to the things that they're not talking about, right? Because sometimes these bad bills are also distractions. They're designed for us to focus so much on that they can kind of ignore everything else and also sneak other stuff in. So that's why we got to be vigilant and kind of do all of it, which is exhausting. It's why I haven't slept in forever, but that's why we're here.
It is exactly why we're here, but we thank you for being here. You and your sister, like double good trouble.
Good trouble. Damn good trouble, Representative. And I'm super honored to do it with you too. So honored.
I really appreciate it. So what's one last thing that you would like to leave the viewers? Because this program is Angie's Angle is designed to just update people on the legislative process, people who wouldn't necessarily know what's going on. What would you leave the folks with?
I would tell folks to always, when it comes to your elected officials, always call them in before you call them out. You never know when you have an unlikely ally. You can't assume where people's positions are. You also can't assume that folks that you think are champions or would side with you know your issue or agree, right? But at the same time, you can't assume folks disagree. I think so. Regardless of who your lawmaker is, they are accountable to you. You are their boss, and you should absolutely reach out to schedule a meeting with your state senator and your state house member, and also, your city and county commission, your sheriff, everybody, right? They're accountable to you. And before you call folk out, call them in, get a temperature check, see where they're at. And then of course, we hold accountable when we must. I'm a huge fan of building bridges when you can, holding folks accountable when you must. And of course, lifting the voices of everyday people. And so those are hopefully some words of advice for folks, but we're here to, cause that good necessary trouble, right?
Good necessary trouble. And I love it. And thank you so much, Ida, for taking the time out of your busy night, because you are still in the Capitol and it is after 8:00. And we really appreciate the hard work that you're doing. And just thank you, because you've been there. You are like an advisor, an unpaid advisor to me. And I just really appreciate all the hard work you put into this and educating people on the process and making sure they don't sneak anything past us. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Representative. We're trying. It's definitely a team effort. There's a huge collaborative crew here of advocates and lawmakers who are just working, collaboratively to try to make this stuff happen for the people that we fight for. And ultimately it is, it's our communities. That's who we represent. And it's such an honor and privilege to do that. And so grateful for you. And you are just such an inspiration as like a mama in this process, as a Black woman, as an organizer. We just are so inspired by you and really grateful for all that you do and all that you carry. It's such a heavy burden. And you've got a whole army of folks here to support you.